So this coming in a short while ago, a lifeline, many would say, for SAA.
Most definitely, Shahan. And the statement from the business rescue practitioners is that they can confirm that the Development Bank of Southern Africa has committed 3.5 billion rand in funding to SAA, and with an immediate drawdown of 2 billion rand. Funding for the restructuring phase after the business plan is adopted is being considered by potential funders. Also important to note is that the airline is saying passengers and travel agencies and the airline partners can book air travel on SAA with confidence. So this is basically a lifeline for SAA. They have been given more than what they were asking for. Remember, they were looking for 2 billion rand from government. The lenders came in December to give the 2 billion rand. They needed an additional 2 billion, and it appears as though the Development Bank is giving 3.2 billion rand at this stage. And it just goes to show how desperate this airline actually is for additional funding. And given that the business rescue practitioners have come in to basically rescue the airline, they have gone to potential funders to get this much needed cash injection. So we're looking at 3.2 billion rand. And as they said in their statements, many were worried about the state of the airline, whether or not flights can be booked, and the airline is making it very clear that passengers can confidently book. Flights will not be affected. There were worries that the operations at the airline would be worried if they didn't secure the 2 billion rand. But it's been secured. Yeah, so it's been secured, and this basically will sway the business rescue process, wouldn't it? Because they were looking to whether or not it's financially viable for SAA to continue operating. Most definitely, and one must also remember that the business rescue process is also costing the shareholder governments so much money as well. They need to bring in these business practitioners. There's a whole process that's been that's underway at the moment, and these business rescue practitioners don't come cheap. So it's all very costly for the airline. But the light side of things, and many would say that when we speak about SAA, we don't speak about the light side, but the good part is that the business rescue practitioners are trying to find a way to rescue the business. That's why it's called business rescue. And they have obviously gone to various funders, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, for example, to try and seek additional funding. And they've obviously put a good plan on the table to say, if you give us this funding, this is what we'll bring back in return, and we will be able to save the airlines, save jobs, and not have such a negative impact on the economy. And also all these government guarantees, if the airline had to liquidate, National Treasury would have to pay all of those government guarantees, which runs into the billions. So at the end of the day, it is a good thing. It is a lifeline, and it's a lifeline that was much needed for this airline. So let's talk about another story you were also covering today, Heidi, and that's SA Express taken to court. I think I'm the airline correspondent now. I was the PIC, now I'm the airline. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about SA Express, because, of course, there's a move taking them to court saying that they should be placed under business rescue because they haven't paid their debt. Exactly. So a service provider, a former service provider called Ziegler, it's a logistics company, had been providing certain services to SA Express, and they have an outstanding debt of about 11.3 million rand. They took an urgent application to the South Gauteng High Court saying that it's very important for the airline to go through a business rescue process. They believe that the airline has not been able to function without government bailouts, and they believe it's very important for the airline to get some kind of assistance, just like SAA. Remember, they're sister airlines. So they took that application forward to the court today, and those arguments were heard, where Ziegler is saying that they are not trying to shut the airline down because they want to save it. And even though they're just a service provider, they are also impacted by whether or not SA Express fails. And they have decided to take that application forward and, of course, let the courts decide. Yeah, SA Express, though, is disagreeing with that application in its entirety. Most definitely. And even in my notes today, I was writing all these notes about what Ziegler was saying. And when it came to SA Express's turn to argue as to why they believe the airline should not undergo business rescue, they are basically saying that they are not in such bad financial state as Ziegler's saying, which is quite shocking to hear, given the fact that the airline has not been able to provide financial statements, just like SAA, to Parliament over the last 2 years. Their liabilities exceed their assets, meaning they have more debt than they have more revenue coming in. So they are basically saying that there are no grounds for business rescue. rescue, and that it should not be heard on an urgent basis. And the judge will, of course, have to decide whether, whose argument was stronger, and if the airline indeed needs to go into business rescue like SAA.
All right, thanks so much for that. Appreciate it. Heidi Jacos.